Hello class, sorry I cannot be there today. We are doing Unit 6, Day 7 today on your own paper. Feel free to pause this where you need to so that you can understand it and write it all down. A copy of this video will also be on Canvas so that you can rewatch it if you need to. So what we are doing today is we're solving by substitution. We've already done graphing on the calculator. We've already done graphing by hand, so now we're doing substitution. So solving by substitution. Here's how it's going to work. These are the steps. These steps that I'm going to tell you, they don't make any sense until we start doing the problem. First thing we're going to do is we are going to solve for one variable. Whatever is easiest. So you will sometimes solve for y, and sometimes you'll solve for x. Again, you're going to do whatever is easiest. Whatever is easiest. And I'll show you when we get to the actual problems. Once you have solved for a y or x, whatever letter is easiest, you are going to substitute what you got from step number 1 into the other equation. And I know this isn't making any sense, but it will, I promise. Into the other equation that you haven't used yet. Using parentheses. And solve. So you're going to solve for a variable, then you're going to substitute what you got from step 1 into the other equation using parentheses and solve. Final step is you're going to plug whatever you got from step number 2 back into step number 1 and solve. And I know this doesn't make any sense. It will, I promise. So let's give this problem a go and we'll follow those steps and hopefully it'll make sense. Alright, so here is the problem. Okay, we have 3x plus y equals 5, and we have 2x minus y equals 10. So there's our original problem, and they're going to say solve for x and solve for y. And I think the directions tonight will say solve by substitution. So step number 1, we need to solve for a variable. So you can solve for x or y in this first equation, or you can solve for x or y in the second equation. What I would recommend is solving for a variable that doesn't have a number other than 1 in front of it. So I wouldn't solve for x here because eventually you're going to have to divide stuff by 3, and 5 divided by 3 would be a fraction. Same thing here, you'd have to divide stuff by 2. It's just easier to solve for a variable if it only has a coefficient of 1. So the one that I would recommend solving for is y in the first equation. So that's going to be step number 1. I'm going to solve for a variable. I'm going to solve for y in the top equation. So I originally have 3x plus y equals 5. I want to get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. Once I do that, I have y equals 5 minus 3x. So that's the end of step number 1. I solve for a variable. Step number 2. I'm going to take what I just got, this y equals 5 minus 3x, and I'm going to plug it into this equation here that I haven't even touched yet, this 2x minus y equals 10. What I'm going to do is everywhere there's a y, I'm going to replace it with 5 minus 3x. So what I'm going to do is substitute this in right there. That's why it's called substitution. So I'm going to rewrite this whole thing, except I have 2x minus, and instead of writing y, I'm going to use parentheses and put 5 minus 3x, because y is equal to 5 minus 3x. So all I did was replace the y with a 5 minus 3x, and then equals 10. And now I'm going to solve, now that I have all of the same variable. Now notice this is a negative, or you can put a negative 1. I'm going to distribute that negative 1. This goes back to first semester, solving for variables. So when I distribute, I have a negative 5 and a plus 3x equals 10. Now I just solve it. 2x plus 3x is 5x. Minus 5 equals 10. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And I get 5x equals 15. Divide, and I get x equals 3. So that's the end of step number 2. Final step. Step number 3, we're going to take what I just got from step number 2, which is x equals 3. I'm going to plug it back into the equation from step number 1. So if I know x equals 3, I'm going to replace the x with a 3. I have y equals 5 minus 3 times x. We just got x to be 3. So we know y is going to equal 5 minus 9. Y equals negative 4. And now you have your answer. Your answer as a point would be 3, negative 4. So those are the steps that you're going to follow. We'll do a couple more, but that's the main gist of how you're going to do substitution. Hopefully those 3 steps at the top make a little bit more sense now. Alright, so let's try another one. Problem B. Let's say you have 2x plus 2y equals 3, x minus 4y equals negative 1. Alright, once you have those, step number 1 is you're going to want to solve for a variable, whatever is easiest. And again, I wouldn't solve for x or y up on the top equation, because you'd have to divide by 2 to get x by itself, which would leave you with a 3 divided by 2. And if you can avoid fractions or decimals, that's ideal. So then, if you look down here, x only has a coefficient of 1. That's the one I would solve for. That's the easiest one to go with. So if you have a coefficient of 1 or negative 1 even, that's better than having a number like 2 or 4 or something. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to solve for x in the bottom equation, because that's going to be the easiest variable to get by itself. It's not wrong if you solve for one of the other variables, but you're just more likely to get mistakes along the way. So I'm going to get x by itself by adding 4y to both sides. I get x equals negative 1 plus 4y. Oops, 4y. So there's my equation. Step number 2. What I'm going to do now is take this x equals negative 1 plus 4y, and I'm going to plug it into the equation that I haven't touched yet. Don't plug it back into the one we just worked with. Plug it into the other one. So everywhere there's an x, I'm going to put negative 1 plus 4y instead. I'm substituting it in. So I have 2 times, and instead of x, I'm going to put negative 1 plus 4y with parentheses around it. Don't forget the parentheses. Plus 2y equals 3. And now I have all y's and I can solve. So I'm going to distribute the 2, and I have negative 2 plus 8y plus 2y equals 3. Or negative 2 plus 10y equals 3. And then I'm going to add 2 to both sides, and I get 10y equals 5. And then I divide by 10. So y is going to be 5 divided by 10, or 1/2. If you want to write it as a decimal, you can. So now I've solved for a variable, and now what I'm going to do is take what I got from step 2 and plug it into step 1. So everywhere there's a y in step 1, I'm going to replace it with a 1/2. So I have x equals negative 1 plus 4 times 1/2, or negative 1 plus 2, which is 1. So x equals 1, y equals 1/2. So 1, 1/2 will be your answer. And then you can always double check. You can plug it in. It should work for both of the equations. And that should give you your answer. Alright, so then let's move on and do a third problem. The third problem is this one. Alright, so last problem we're going to do. You have 2x minus 3y equals negative 14, and 3x minus y equals negative 7. So what's going to happen is we need to, first of all, pick the easiest variable to solve for. Alright, well in this case, in the top, if we solve for x, we'd have to divide stuff by 2, which would give me 3/2 here. That's not so nice. If I solve for y in the top equation, then I'm going to have to divide stuff by 3. Negative 14 divided by 3 is not very nice. If we go to the bottom equation, we'd have to divide by 3 to get x by itself, leaving us with a negative 7/3. The easiest one to solve for is going to be the y in the second equation, because that has a coefficient of negative 1, which is better than having 2 or 3 as a coefficient. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3x minus y equals negative 7, and I'm going to solve for y. I'm going to get rid of the 3x first by subtracting it. So I'm going to minus 3x, I get negative y equals negative 7 minus 3x. And then I do need to divide everything by negative 1, but at least it won't leave me with any fractions. So I'll get y equals positive 7 plus 3x. So there is my variable all by itself. That's step 1. Okay, so always kind of look ahead and give it some thought. Look for a 1 or negative 1, or if the numbers are all even, dividing by 2 would be nice, something like that. Okay, step 2. We're going to take this and plug it into the other equation that we haven't touched yet. Don't plug it back into the same one that you just worked, which I just did. So you have 2x minus 3 times this, 7 plus 3x, equals negative 14. Alright, so there we go. Sorry about the mistake. You're going to plug it into this equation. I just tried plugging it into this one and ran into my mistake. Okay, so now I'm going to distribute the negative 3, and I'm going to have 2x minus 21 minus 9x equals negative 14. 2x minus 9x is negative 7x. Minus 21 equals negative 14. I'm going to add 21 to both sides and start getting this x by itself. I got negative 7x equals 7, positive. I'm going to divide by negative 7 on both sides, and I get x equals negative 1. From there, once you've solved that, you're going to take what you got from step 2, plug it back into what you got from step number 1. So we have y equals 7 plus 3 times x, negative 1. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Add it to 7, y is going to end up equaling positive 4. So we got negative 1 and 4. As a point, it'll be negative 1 comma 4. And that is your answer. So I hope that helps you a little bit with substitution. You're going to be doing an assignment. It is out of your book, but you will get a paper copy from the sub, and you can use that as your homework, and then we'll go through it tomorrow and you'll get your quizzes back as well. Good luck. Thanks, guys.